Oh, yeah. Good for the game, man. Way to go, USA. USA on 3. 1, 2, 3. USA.
We have Team USA head coach Nick Myers. It's been a long time coming, but what's it like to be so close now to finally going to Ireland?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to jump on, and it's been a journey. There's no doubt. You know, I think having the privilege to be part of the 2016 World Championships, it seems like that was a while ago. You know, and you look at some of the alums from that team now that are, you know, seasoned pro veterans, to where now here we are on the verge of the next World Games, almost 6 years later, which, as you'd stated, should be a 4-year cycle, and it's turned into a 6-year cycle. And but, you know, that being said, credit to the World Lacrosse Federation and for the folks that have really worked behind the scenes. You know, certainly US Lacrosse has done an amazing job of advocating for this particular group to get this World Championship. Ireland, the host, has been phenomenal. You know, they've been committed every step of the way. So, yeah, all things point, you know, you're always cautiously optimistic. I think at this point you have to be. But we had a great week last week with the men. You know, we got our team picked, and right now we're there in Coach Dyer's hand. He's got them training. We got a group meet firing, and we got our eyes focused on the task that we have coming up here in August.
What was it like here in these weeks leading up to finally get that group together again here in the summer and know, like, hey, these are the guys that we're taking over?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. I mean, we had our kind of our final cut down camp, if you will, in November here in Columbus. And that was a great step, you know, because at that point we hadn't really played outside competition in a couple of years. We had the camp in June, but that really was just a reacclimate post-COVID. So the November camp was big. You know, we made a couple roster adjustments. We played Carolina. We played Ohio State. You know, we got out of there healthy, got everybody back to their teams. And then for me, you know, obviously the focus then turns back to Ohio State. But I was able to follow these men through their season. And man, I tell you what, every guy on this roster really felt like had a great season, you know. So I think we had a lot of excitement. You know, the biggest thing is health. You know, we want to make sure these guys are coming in healthy and they leave this experience healthy. So, you know, we had physicals last week. You know, guys got through the physicals. We have one young man that we're working with right now. It's coming off an injury from the Final Four. But we expect him to make a recovery. That's certainly the goal. So really, we got our team picked, and now it's just a matter of, you know, conditioning. And, you know, the summer typically is a time where you gain weight, you gain strength. Every program's a little bit different, you know. So for our men, knowing there's this, you know, 8 games in 10 days in August, they have to make some modifications to their summer workouts.
You mentioned all these guys having played in college, and it's different than when you coached the U19 team back in 2016, because like then you've got some guys who had been freshmen or maybe a couple of guys who had played a sophomore year or heading into their sophomore year. But for the most part, it's split then between guys who were also in high school. Does it make it easier or harder knowing that all of these guys have some college experience and have played at that level?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'm not sure that it's necessarily easy or harder. It's just different. You know, I think just the way we navigate this team, you know, the level of respect that we have for them and they have for us, I think it's just different as juniors and seniors in college. You know, you made the point of the 2016 team, you know, guys like Mac O'Keefe, you know, Michael Sowers, Jared Bernhardt, those guys are still in high school. You know, they hadn't even had their first, you know, rep of college lacrosse yet. You know, that being said, this team that we selected, we've been with them since high school. You know, when we first met them the summer of 2019, so the relationships, the trust, we just voted on captains as a team this past week. And I'm really proud to stay. I don't know if I could get in trouble for stating this here with you, but I'm going to break it anyway. Graham Bundy and Cole Kirst will be our captains of Team USA. And the team was made aware of that yesterday. So, but my point with Graham and Cole is those guys have been so consistent going back to even the summer of 19 when we had 100 guys. They emerged immediately as leadership type guys. And then here we are, however many years later, you know, and however many camps later, to be voted on by their peers as captains of the team is definitely a next step in terms of building the identity of this group. But yeah, I mean, listen, Nick, you said it. This is going to be some incredible lacrosse. And it's not just us. Let's keep in mind all the teams that we're competing against now are that age as well. So, you know, we had 5 of our Buckeyes out at the Canadian camp here they had in British Columbia a couple of weeks ago. I know they're making their final roster decisions. But they're going to be loaded, and everybody that's coming over is going to be. And so you're going to see guys that know lacrosse, familiar with field lacrosse, and you're going to see some really high level lacrosse being played over in Ireland. I have no doubt about that.
Having known the Kirst family now and speaking with Graham Bundy this past year, those captains don't surprise me one bit. Two very impressive individuals on a group that is very impressive. You mentioned the competition, and there's this pressure that Team USA has never lost one of these world championships, whether it's U19 or now this iteration of it. What is that pressure? And I'm sure you don't feel it now maybe as much as you might feel it as you go on in the tournament. For you having experienced it, what do you tell these guys that haven't experienced that?
Yeah, it's there. I mean, listen, and I think what you have to do is you can lean away from it or you can lean into it. And, when I accepted this opportunity to come back and coach the team again, you accept the responsibility that comes with this particular team and the history of this team dating back to, I believe it's 1988. When we won the first championship, and our goal of bringing our 9th world championship back at this level consecutive is an awesome responsibility. And that's kind of how we framed it to our men. I think you have to, pressure is privilege, and nobody should put more pressure on you than you. And I think we talk about this team, only team beating Team USA is Team USA, and we know that there's some great challenges that lie ahead. There's some great opponents that we'll face. But we truly believe it's a matter of not allowing ourselves to beat ourselves. And this is tricky. You only have so much time together. You get 3 days, then you're away from each other for a month and a half. And then you get thrown right into our first game. The schedule just came out. Guess who we're playing, game 1 of the world championship. So we'll go right into it. We'll see our biggest opponent, or one of our biggest opponents, I should say. And then we'll have a 10-day window of pool play before the tournament starts, and we compete for that championship. So it's a process. What I learned from 16 is you got to kind of evolve as a team through the tournament. You kind of grow as a group, and that's going to be a big part of our ability to be successful. You got to minimize distractions, and you got to pick the right men. You got to pick men that, really are willing to serve each other, put their egos aside, take on any role that you can. And we had Matt Danowski and John Galloway. It was great. We were there with the seniors last week at Sparks. So they came in, and our last breakfast as a team, Coach Danowski came over and introduced, Coach Danowski and Coach Galloway, and they shared, their experience from this team and what that meant to them to be a part of Team USA at the senior level. Coach Galloway having been cut, them being an alternate, them being a captain. It was really profound to hear their words, to hear what it means to them. And I think that really resonated with our men that, hey, this is just an awesome opportunity, and let's look at it and attack it as such. You
mentioned kind of like doing whatever the team needs. And I mean, you experienced this with high school kids coming into college. You got a bunch of guys that are number ones in their high school team that you got to get to buy into the college philosophy and how they fit in with this team. But now, like with this group, you got a bunch of guys who maybe are number ones on their college team now that you got to get to buy into the Team USA idea and the model. How have you kind of approached that? And I think it's got to be more, maybe almost more similar to the U.S. men's national team idea, where you got guys who are some of the best in the world that are all maybe going to have to do something different so that this team works.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I think like I said, you got to just address the elephant in the room, go right at it, and you got to lean into it. And, where the seniors are taking PLL guys and trying to formulate PLL pro players back into the international game. The biggest thing you have to keep in mind is the game is just different. The international game is just a very different game. And I think that sometimes is lost on folks that aren't as familiar with international lacrosse. I think it's outstanding. ESPN has picked up the World Games. So people back here in the United States are going to get to see the U21 semifinals and championship game, and really get an opportunity to experience it. But, there is no shot clock. The nuances of the game is actually much shorter than it was in 2016. They went from 20-minute running quarters now to 15-minute running quarters. So it used to be the longest lacrosse game that you played to now it's one of the shortest. If we had played 15-minute running quarters in 2016, we probably would have lost the world championship. So I think reminding our men, taking them back to some of those experiences that I had with that last group, highlighting guys like a Brian Costabile. Brian Costabile was the best player, in my opinion, at the camp last week. And he, in the games I saw, he's one of the best minis in the world right now. And that young man was a defensive midfielder on our team. And, Mac O'Keefe was an out of the box, kind of like midfield wing dodger, and now he's the all-time leading scorer. And to see those guys come over and to hear their experiences, Michael Sowers, they talk so positively. Ryan Cartwright, I saw last week. These are guys that really, when I see them, they light up. We have an embrace, and they've shared their experiences with our men. That's really important for them to hear, because I do think there's going to come a time where guys are going to have to maybe give a little to get. And I think they've really bought into that so far. The proof will come when we get over there and we have to line up and go. But yeah, the international game, and then taking guys that have been in the Notre Dame system, the Duke system, the Yale system, the Virginia system for now 3 and 4 years, you're kind of stuck in your ways, and you got to learn a new vocabulary, new language, and you have to ultimately do it with each other. That's one of the challenges that I really love. I really enjoy. It's a lot of fun. It's what makes this experience very unique.
Yeah, I love those examples. They're great ones from guys who have evolved their game for that tournament in particular. All right, final one for me. Throughout this process, because you guys stayed in contact, but it's different. And there have been a couple of guys that have kind of come in and out of this team depending on different roster moves and cuts that you've made once in this last year or so. How have you felt like just kind of the group dynamic has evolved since before the pandemic when you were kind of getting ready for 2020?
Yeah, no, again, great question. I think the men, the hardest part of this is making the roster decisions. There's just no doubt. I mean, it's grueling. I've lost sleep over that. That's really tough. And what we've tried to tell the men is like, even from that very first group of 100, say, that started this process, everybody has a share in this thing, and when we come together, that it's that feeling of, there's guys that aren't here that you have the privilege of representing the United States of America in this uniform that, you fought for. And I think just keeping that in mind that, hey, listen, this is bigger than us. I guess this responsibility that we have, I think is very humbling. We've talked a lot about that as a team, so these are things that I do think bind us together a bit. We've had the normal group me's and text messages, and we'll touch base with each other. And I think even go on through the season, you play Notre Dame, when you see Cav and Entman in line, whether you win or lose, that embrace is a little bit more significant, and I had that experience with a lot of the guys, each week, I felt like I was playing somebody on the other side of the ball that was a Team USA member. And, but you know what, I tell you what, credit to the men and the staff. When we get together, we've really been able to we start every time with some sort of a team builder, whether it's 7 good minutes, or whatever it may be, where we just talk, and we just reacclimate. And, guys have been great about opening up. There's no cameras, there's no social media. It's typically just us in a room, and it's trying to get, caught up on each other, and to build that brotherhood, if you will, of Team USA. And, these guys, they have a lot of fun together. These camps that are 2-3 days are very intimate. And so I do think that there's a real strong feeling in some of this time, the strain of going up and down. We were on, we were off. There was COVID. This particular group has been through a lot. They've weathered quite a storm. And so I do think that naturally has just brought them together, and they're hungry. There's not a guy on this team right now that was the last team standing, so we don't have a young man that just is coming off a national championship experience. Matsui and Danny have had that experience at Virginia, but I think it's a very motivated group right now. There's a lot of guys that I think are hungry. And I certainly felt that at our last camp, a very motivated group.
Well, you hit on it earlier. I am so happy that World Lacrosse figured out a way to make sure that these kids had an opportunity to play in this tournament, because it's been a long time coming. Hopefully everything goes according to plan. You guys get to Ireland and you guys get to compete, because we can't wait to see it. Nick, we appreciate the time, and safe travels and good luck. I'm sure we'll talk once you guys get over to Ireland.
Awesome. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks.